Once upon a time, protest was dangerous. Marching in the street meant risking your job, your safety, your life. Speaking out meant being silenced or surveilled. And standing up to power meant facing consequences. Today, you can buy a t-shirt that says "Resist at Target." You can like a cause, share a movement, and wear your values, all without leaving your house. Somewhere along the way, activism became a product. This is the story of commodified activism, when social justice gets turned into branding, aesthetics, and marketable content. It's when outrage becomes a trend, when protest becomes a photo op, and when movements meant to dismantle systems get absorbed by the very system they were fighting. You've seen it everywhere. Brands posting black squares for Black Lives Matter, while exploiting black labour. Companies changing their logo to a rainbow in June, while donating to anti-LGBTQ politicians in July. Influencers giving allyship speeches, while selling $90 hoodies with activist slogans on them. These aren't isolated moments. They're the logic of capitalism at work, co-opting resistance, sanitizing it, and turning it into a tool for engagement. Because, in the age of social media, activism is content, and content is currency. Let's talk about brands. During the 2020 uprisings following the murder of George Floyd, nearly every major corporation released a statement. They posted hashtags, they changed their profile pictures, they said, "We stand with you." But many of those same companies had no black executives, no history of donating to racial justice causes, ongoing practices of discrimination and exploitation. What they had was a PR crisis, and social justice became the fix. Posting a statement costs nothing. Changing a logo takes 5 minutes, but it buys goodwill, it boosts engagement, it signals virtue without sacrifice. That's commodified activism. The same thing happens with feminism. You'll see shirts that say, "The future is female," made in sweatshops by underpaid women. Perfume ads telling women to be bold and unapologetic, while the same companies profit off impossible beauty standards. Feminism becomes a marketing message. Empowerment becomes a brand identity. And liberation gets reduced to girl boss energy and pastel Instagram quotes. But it's not just brands. Influencers do it too. In fact, influencer activism has become its own genre, with its own rules, language, and monetization strategy. You know the type. The perfectly lit photo at a protest. The activism aesthetic carousel of infographics. The caption that ends with a promo code or link in bio. Some of it is well-intentioned, some of it is strategic, and some of it is straight-up performance. Because when visibility becomes survival and growth depends on relevance, social justice becomes a way to stay on trend. It's not activism anymore. It's optics. It's about looking like you care, without risking anything. It's about expressing solidarity, without changing behavior. It's about aligning your brand, without challenging power. This is what happens when the algorithm meets the movement. Hashtags go viral. Infographics are shared. Protest becomes aestheticized. And before long, the radical edges of the message are sanded down to fit the feed. That's how we end up with corporations saying "love is love" while funding hate. With influencers crying on camera for likes. With protest signs becoming Pinterest boards. Because in the attention economy, everything is content, even justice. And when activism becomes content, it's no longer about transformation, it's about engagement. Let's be clear. Not all online activism is fake. Social media has given millions of people access to information, language, and organizing tools they wouldn't have had otherwise. It's helped movements like Taunton Me Too. content Black Lives Matter and chanted Free Palestine spread globally in ways that once seemed impossible. But when the platforms profit more from the performance of change than from actual change, we have to ask, who benefits from all this visibility? Because the truth is, the system knows how to absorb resistance, and the algorithm is built to reward what's easy to consume, not what's hard to confront. Take Instagram infographics. In 2020, they were everywhere. Colourful slides breaking down racism, capitalism, gender, abolition. They were bite-sized, aesthetic, and shareable. But they also oversimplified complex struggles into trendy swipe posts. Many weren't written by organisers, but by influencers trying to stay relevant. And while some helped educate, many just became another form of virtue signalling. Look, I care. Look, I'm informed. Look, I posted. But posting isn't the same as action, and sharing isn't the same as risking. Social media makes it easy to feel like you're doing something, when really, you're just performing for your audience. Click the link, sign the petition, repost the graphic, but how often do those links get followed? How many petitions lead to policy? How much of the content is about the issue? And how much is about the creator? That's what commodification does. It turns struggle into strategy. It turns revolution into branding. And it makes it harder to tell the difference between a movement and a marketing plan. Even worse, the system punishes real activism. Posts about actual resistance, like abolition, anti-imperialism, or critiques of capitalism, get shadow banned, demonetized, or deprioritized in the feed. Meanwhile, safe content, sanitized, brand-friendly, emotionally palatable, goes viral. The algorithm doesn't care about justice. It cares about retention, and it promotes whatever keeps people scrolling. So while creators chase engagement, the system they're fighting gets stronger by feeding off their content. But here's the thing, real activism can't be monetized, because real activism isn't cute, it's uncomfortable. It challenges your comfort, your privilege, your position. It involves risk. It involves showing up when the cameras aren't rolling. And that if you're serious about change, you can't play by the platform's rules forever. So what do? Start by asking different questions. Who profits from this post? Whose voice is missing? Is this about impact or impression? If it feels safe, easy, and universally applauded, it might not be activism. It might be a product with a cause slapped on top. And the more we mistake aesthetics for action, the more power gets to stay exactly where it is. Because the system doesn't fear hashtags. It fears people who know the difference between marketing and movement.